Question. What contributions do you guys feel that you can make to the Ballroom community for today?
So I guess I started off. So I mean, for me, I'm actually working on a few concepts right now. Like outside of Ballroom, I'm involved in like human capital services. Opened up my own business before the pandemic. And when the pandemic happened, I kind of shifted gears and that focused on my initial gig. But now that it's post-pandemic, I really get back into it. It's an element of work. So I think career services, I think training and development, just the walks of life that I live, I connect with people of, no matter what background, it kind of been able to resonate with all different walks of life. So just connecting with people, allowing to see their own purpose, see their true value in themselves, and just apply that in some kind of way. And just also just using my own story, my own testimony, kind of being transparent about, where I started, where being very clear about that aspect, where I want to go, and being intentional with regard to that aspect. I think that would allow that pathway to kind of shape. And even when I was in the house of Milan, as a father, like my main focus was on making sure that you were well educated, making sure that you had ambition, drive, that was hopeful for yourself, and looking to kind of inspire that. And like we're constantly talking about that. Started like a recognition program that I know other houses are using now to just honor their members. Because I think that is really about the power of Ballroom is how each person that contributes feel. So if you could reach just one person and kind of help that person understand, like, hey, you actually do matter, then that's one person contributed to something that I think would be magical. So for me, in my admin, career services, things of that nature is where I'm looking to part of the leaders and bring that into Ballroom.
Me personally, I could contribute to the same today. It's honestly just my biggest passion, like I said, is my voice, activism, my arts, my writing, all that I have, to be available to anybody. I know there's a ton of organizations and people who already have active initiatives going all around the scene. And, if anybody ever watches or hears me now and anybody in this room, like, I'm one of those people, I'm readily available. I know that I'm pretty quiet around the scene and to myself. So if people are unaware, I'm making anybody aware. Like I'm always here, and the things that I do, like, I've always been active, but it's always been solo. Like, I don't not affiliated with any agencies, anything like that. But I always move and advance myself for causes in the community, but always as a solo acting, just like I do my book and anything like that. But when it comes to Ballroom, I'm always available, and I'm always a willing participant at any stage, and any child that knows that come across me, I'm there in any capacity and always willing to be.
I think that some things that I can, immediately contribute to Ballroom is being a father, right? And sometimes, we as fathers, we don't really take hold of our role the right way. So, as a father, you're supposed to coach, you're supposed to motivate, you're supposed to lead, you're supposed to inspire. And those are all the things that I do for my individual kids, but not only for my organization. In the Midwest, I'm a father, period. So I'm not just Father Derrick Chanel, I'm a father in the scene. So if I see, one of your house members doing something that they shouldn't be, I'm not afraid to approach and correct. I'm not afraid to, approach, and provide guidance. Also coach, motivate, lead, and inspire them too, right? Because when we're going away, what we're gonna have 10 years later, right? And another thing is in 2021, we actually launched Chanel Cares, which is an organization where we provide, resources to not only our community, but, any undeveloped community. So, we do the food drives, we do coat drives, we do, back to school giveaways, book bag giveaways, we feed the homeless. Those are some of the things that we do right now.
So real recognizes real as a statement. Like I guess sometimes it become more as cliche, but I see it as core value, connected with core value, and I see it as a finish line, if you will, to the start of a relationship between that those realness, people that walk the same category. In my interaction with like Rico, we had several conversations along the way, so it was like a build up of that aspect, and every time that we would talk, and then we would see each other at Ballroom, the relationship didn't change, right? And then the other test of that for me is, okay, cool. Now what happens when I'm competing against your organization? You get what I'm saying? Like, I think I look at all elements to see how you are going to handle me before I decide to make those types of real recognize as real in regard to my embrace of you, that you're a genuine person. When people move Hollywood and things like that, that's the quickest way to just have me just never ever, because I don't respect that. You get what I'm saying? I try to be genuine and intentional and how I move. So I would say the kind of word that recognizes real, I stand by those principles, but it's not an easy thing for me to just establish that because a person is walking the category. A lot of times I've connected with people that walk the category, and I think that the way that they conduct themselves, they shouldn't walk in the category because it's just a facade, it's an image. If you're in mess and you're mad about losing to me or anything, like, I've seen a lot of those types of things, and it's like, it's Monday and I'm in the office. You get what I'm saying? The ball from last week is past me. So I think that I respect those words, I respect those principles, and I'm intentional about actually establishing that with someone, not just in the realist category. There's people that are both femme that I feel like are realer than, on the phone with them, like, hey, love you, give me that advice that I need. So it's not about your masculinity or anything like that. It's about you being intentional about who you are in every aspect of your interaction with myself. So I can speak to that and praise that and say your name and roles because I've experienced it enough of myself.
Real recognized real, I feel that it's overused and it's not lived up to as often as people say it. And that's just that.
So real recognized real for me goes back to some of the things I said earlier. It's a lifestyle, and not only transcends in ballroom, but it's in real life too. So, you know, and you say real recognizes real, you know, my business mind is automatically, you know, thinking that, you know, and being self-aware within yourself, and then being able to quickly identify BS, being able to quickly identify what's not real, and how to maneuver through that.
By yes, we all know what the real deal is, correct? When you hear that name, what kind of people should be in that?
The red deal.
When you hear that name and the category you are, what kind of people should be enlisted in that group?
I think the people that should be a part of that group are the people whose character aligns with how I opened up. Like, I think that if you're to me, I think that there should be a correlation with your wins and your overall character and things of that nature for a category of this caliber. But I think the need for that at 2023 though, it has a bit of a twist, right? Because I think if you stay in the stigma of realness, then you really limit your impact on what you can actually bring to the scene from my perspective. I think that if you're more cultural and your knowledge, especially being a leader of a house, right? Like, that you as a male, you need to understand all the extremities in your house and be able to resonate with that. If you stay jaded, if you stay kind of boxed in, I don't see how that works for you in regard to what you want to do. I think it's hard to say should you be in a group, because I think that you should remain in good standing. People's character can change as well. So it's hard to say like what would be the underlying parameters to dictate whether or not you go in there. But I would say if it's based on ballroom, of course your wins, your contributions to ballroom. I think also your sportsmanship. I think it's way too much sore losers in the category. And personally, that's not a like of mine. So if I either see sore losing mentality or behaviors, I know that even if we never walked against each other, I'm going to be able to look out for that aspect. And now I'm looking to see, are you a person that I want to interact with on any kind of level? Because I try to avoid conflict. I don't deal with situations in the same way that other people might deal with situations. So I try to avoid things that I feel like might be just unnecessary interruptions of peace, just because I'm a category. That might mean more to someone than it does to me. So I respect that aspect. So I think for me, it's basically your wins, your impact, what you're bringing to the table, your sportsmanship, how you treat people. Because I had a conversation with one of my friends in regard to this aspect. If you come to ballroom and you bring in gang activity, etc., people who are from that, you know that you're not supposed to ever be that. So to be bringing that to those places, to me, already tells me that you're goofy. So I look at certain things and I judge realness both of, I'm different today, but I'm from a certain type of place. So I just can't respect anything that I know is a facade. And you can't tell me, if I say, let's go do things that men quote unquote do, and you can't even resonate with that aspect, again, it's questionable. So I look for that humility, that understanding that being real has its gifts and its curses, right? Because if you're real, you're gay. To some people, that's like, what, you try to deceive us, right? What you're trying to pretend to be. And for those who actually have women still interested in you, or so on and so forth, I'm sure you kind of been through that aspect. Living your truth still ties it to some aspect of deception, because people are just ignorant. So it's just ultimately, how do you now, like I said, establish who you are, be prepared for everything that comes with who you are physically. It's not just, oh, I'm this realest thing, I'm getting trophies. So that comes with a lot of baggage. A lot of times I'm in rooms and I'm hearing people talk about gay people because they don't know that that's me. You get, but I didn't use that as a way to be like, oh, I'm a victim. I want to hear that, and I'm gonna strategize around your ignorance, bring you to the water, and then I'm gonna hire 2 transgenders so that way you can just change your whole dynamic, right? So it's really about how do you use, you know, what you learn, as which my physical became my gift. Tattoos on my hands became, oh, he's ghetto, he's that, and soon on my mouth, you're in tune. So I've learned my power, I've learned my mastery, my cadence. And I think that once you have that, it's imperative that when you have a platform like this, that you are able to school other people that's in the same boat as you, thinking that, oh, I need to look the part. No, you need to be the part. Not looking at all that as a facade, but being who you are, being real, being that strong guy that's gonna have to weather all aspects of criticism because of who you are physically. That's to me. And I would also say that should be a prerequisite to be in a group like that as well. Are you yourself?
The real deal, when it comes to the real deal, like Eric said, you should have the minimum ballroom requirements of, you know, walk wins. I feel that the real deal in 2023 doesn't have the same significance that it did for us in 2011. Ballroom is in a completely different space now than it was then. Ballroom's a lot more social media driven. In 2011, we were moving from the completely underground space, transferring into the social media realm that we're in now. So the real deal became a space where you had guys from down south, Midwest, up north, and all over. At that point in 2011, a lot of us was like, you know, I walked against you here. Some people knew each other by names. A few were maybe their friends, had the phone numbers and stuff. Like, we were just past MySpace. So at that point, 2011, it became the place where we took guys that we saw every few months and built solid friendships and brotherhoods and bonds and stuff like that. And over the years in that group really built off that. Since that time, and also I think a lot of categories did it, and it wasn't just Thug Realness. In the years since then, and also we kept our category business in that group. You know, it was a lot of pettiness, a lot of, you remember some of the arguments, the wins, the losses. I mean, it used to be wild in there, but I think that we kept the category, our group, you know, our boy arguments, whatever, but it stayed in our safe space. As the generation after ours, and I don't know if there was a ball droppage on our part, I don't know, but after that, it's like, you know, our category ball went to the open Facebook in the community at large. So it's just like, you know, all the ballroom got into Talk Realness, and it was like the real deal was everybody's deal, and you know, so it's just like, you know, instead of us discussing who was the next, who was real, who was this, it's, you know, it was the whole community. Like, you know, we didn't start discussing who was next, everybody discussed who was next. Whereas in the years of like 2011, 2016, 17, a lot of that stayed in our tight boat where you had Roy, you had Bam, you had our heads of state in a safe space with us, and it was just the guys who walked up. And for the longest, but as the social media bubble burst and all of everything, it really kind of eliminated that safe space that created a lot of these tight bonds that we created in our realness circle. And I don't know if the real deal truly has the space in 2023 because so much is exposed and open to everybody. Like, I don't even know if the realness guys of today, I don't even think they will respond the way a lot of us did to the real deal, because nobody feels the need for that community. Like, you know, like how I explained earlier about how, you know, I had to walk for years and work my way up from being a little country boy from North Carolina to know the Roys and these people and that people. Like now, I mean, if Facebook blow you up after enough wins, people feel like they know everybody. You be hobbling out with the Heralds and this and that, and you've been out for a year and a half. Like, you don't gotta, I mean, that groundwork type of stuff, it's like, you know, people don't feel like, well, I don't got to put in, like, you know, it's like I came out 6 months ago and I'm hot now. So it's like, what I gotta know you guys for? I mean, and that's really the perception. So I don't know if our type of safe space is gonna mean anything. I mean, you have to truly come in and have an actual love for this community. Like, we got the love for it, but we came in at a different time and a different space. And I don't know if a lot of guys come in with a love for this, or they, I mean, or they love the prizes, they love the money. I mean, because it's easy now. So
for me, what the real deal means to me is, that's the Facebook group, right? So for me, I'm gonna have to challenge the integrity of the Facebook group, because for one, I'm not in it, and I probably said half of them that's in there anyway. So it's my opinion.
I think that that's one of my issues. You know, when I hear, you know, people give themselves self-proclaimed titles. Again, I think everybody should feel like they're the greatest when they go out there, right? But I think that we should also have a degree of humility. For when we walk, I know definitely myself, I used to see Roy and Dre and so on and so forth outside at the warehouse, you know, out this is a club, and then I would see them at the ball, and they were welcoming, which is, you know, I've heard stigmas from House of Ebony, but I've never had any. They were just always welcoming to me, and I felt like if they, like, Roy has to be probably the realest person that I've laid eyes on at a time when I started working balls. Not, you know, and I used to be like, oh wow, because it was a realness that I recognized, that I saw in my own family. And so I felt like if a person of that caliber, not only him, there's a lot of other greats I can name 20, 30, 40, have never like kind of closed out the door for another generation to kind of come in and make their name. Then, you know, how do you, I feel like we as realness people got to be careful doing the things that we don't want. To Rico's point, I think that a lot of people start participating in the world because of the shock factor of it being mainstream. It plays against you being, you know, there's a discrete element that comes with some of us, and because of the walks of life that we would have. I know that's my story. Like, I'm like, oh shit, this is kind of really quickly, everything is like all over the place, and I feel like I can't control my own narrative. Now I may be subjected to the 30-second clip that I'm a part of, and I would have to justify my belonging in other rooms because things are just going viral, and you don't have a control over where things are actually going. So for me, I'm kind of trying to figure out where is this going to ultimately be. But I think that we got to be careful as people that walk a category where if you ask people who don't walk realness, there's not that much positive views on the category. So if we're trying to fight to have a voice, then how can you basically be breaking down your own in that way? Now, granted, if a person is not real, they're not real. Okay, but that's a separate conversation from a group that's supposed to be for guys of realness, and we kind of discredited what other judges basically said. Well, there's times that I feel like I shouldn't have lost. There's times that other person feel like they shouldn't have lost, but that's what it all boils down to. You're discrediting somebody's pretty much their legacy. They didn't make themselves legendary. They didn't make themselves, you know, give themselves those titles. Somewhere along the line, the process created that. Be mad at the process. Everything is cause and effect. But to sit there and focus on that person, on the gatekeeper, so on and so forth, but especially when I see things like that, and it's coming from people who I feel like a gatekeeper is a person that has years and years and years been just sending the top people. We all know who the top people ought to be. Let's not kid around. You walk these little functions here and there that you know you're not going to see nobody at. They don't have the relevance. But we all know when you're going to see a Dre, a Roy, a man. You know when you're going to see them. A lot of these individuals that say gatekeeper and so on and so forth, I don't even talk about the people I beat so many of them because there's no point of it. They do that because they question it as an insecurity to your realness. I've never seen Roy brag about his realness. Dre brag. It's almost like I knew I was going to lose, right? It's in. They don't even have to say it. It's in their cadence. So when you have to do all of that, to me, you're already questionable.
Yeah, gatekeeper. When it comes to the whole gatekeeper thing, I feel like I don't feel like it's necessary. Just to what Eric was saying, you know, people don't deem themselves, and that. Like I said, it goes across most categories of ballroom, but just specifically the realness. It's not really a need. If you don't see it, don't see it. You know, it's been a person to see. I didn't see it for. It was legendary realness settled, and it was just like that. I felt better about it. I personally didn't see it, and it's not like I had to call the whole thug realness category to line. Rebuke his status. Nope. I personally didn't see it. Yo, let's battle it out. I won. Cool. My conscience is clear. I mean, I can't do nothing about the icon to deem the person. I mean, I don't have that type of. I mean, we're all just legendary. There's nothing we can do about it. But, you know, I don't have to be on the campaign to be like, well, you know, I'm revoke every status. I don't like, I mean, you know, people have not liked other people's statuses probably for the eternity of statuses being given a ballroom. I'm pretty sure, like, you know, so it's no reason to, you know, wage a campaign about it. That's how I feel. And if you don't like them, you know, I come from the school of the world. If you don't like them doing the ballroom way, if you don't like them sitting on the floor, that's just that.
Plus the action, I think, is contradictory to real. Like if you sit here really campaigning about what the next man is doing, I just don't. It's too much time. Like I just don't think that. Why are you doing that? Like I think that's what girls do at a beauty salon, right? Because it's something to talk about.
Yeah, and I ain't one of them. Like I'm not bragging on all this stuff like that. Like you know, I take my things out on the floor.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Like, so gatekeeper for me, I try not to comment too much on the status conversations, especially if it's somebody that I don't follow. So if I don't follow your ballroom career, I can't comment. And I think a lot of times, us in ballroom, we do that a lot. So-and-so should be legend, so-and-so shouldn't be legend, so-and-so shouldn't be an icon. But when you really followed that person's career? So you can't say, you're not at every ball, you're not at every event, you don't know what this person does inside and outside of ballroom. So who are you to comment on their status? All you can do is comment when you saw them. But what about the times when you weren't there? So I don't comment on status.